shaft, so you would have no biases, you'd have no full awareness of what you were hitting. You would simply find what is the best option for you.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't great sort of launch monitor like we've got now to give truly objective, measurable feedback. It was the best available at the time, but in today's technology, we've got just so many options in every way to fully analyze and understand the reasons as to that best performing product for you, what it is, and why it works that way.
Yeah, and that's really a good segue to the next, my next question. It is so amazingly technical, and for the times that I'm physically with you in Tampa, we spend as much time going through the various club and manufacturer options, but you've also helped me understand the value of some of the technical metric measurements that are out today. Sticking with the evolution of fitting, it's moved beyond line loft. How do you work with clients? Talk to them about, whether it's me as an example or anybody else that comes to visit Dan or his colleagues. How do you work with them? What is that experience like?
Well, it's important to get a feel for why they're coming to me in the first place, what their goals for the session are ultimately going to be. When I get a chance to see how they use their clubs, we've all got our own unique sort of idiosyncrasies to our swing, our blueprints to our swing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get a chance to see how their equipment pairs up with what they naturally do with their swing, and to give them a reason and understanding as to why they're seeing a certain ball flight that they would like to improve upon.
Right.
It's really not until I can point out certain metrics that maybe a clear understanding of where that equipment may be holding someone back, how we can then target certain options with a club, whether it's a shaft length, weight, flex, profile in a club head in terms of where its center of gravity is placed, so many different ways in which we can put together the right type of equipment to ultimately send that ball in a better space.
And I think one of the value added components, and you and I have really talked about this and put it in play, is my first experience, my first appointment with you wasn't a here and now appointment. What is unique, in my opinion, about Spec is you capture data and images in a system that allowed the relationship to continue or to build off of in year two, when I came back, and then subsequently earlier this year when I was spending time with you. Talk about the value of that relationship and how it really is beyond just a 1 hour or 1 hour and a half deal.
Sure. So I can recall our first session, and to be fair, the way in which I can truly recall it is because of all that recorded shot history. I see hundreds of people a year, and it's interesting how whenever I go back to look at somebody's launch monitor data, I can put a face to the name where without that information I would struggle to do so. And being able to see back in October of 21, when you first came in, and the equipment that you were using and how it compared to the dozens of options that we tried, having that readily available to look back upon at any time is so valuable, because just yesterday we're again looking at that same 3-wood from a couple of years back, seeing how it worked then, seeing how it's working now, and then being able to understand, okay, well, if a certain shot pattern is arising that I don't like, what was the difference, what needs to be addressed?
Right.
Of course, the equipment can influence that performance, but the way I see it in this game, there's 4 ways that you can improve. There's the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
there's the technique,
Mm-hmm.
there's the mind and the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to last night take a few pictures of your setup.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few pictures from October of
Mhm.
21 as well, and we could understand where some of the things may have, kind of gotten off track to a certain extent. We make sure those are back in place, and then we get into testing the equipment to see what sort of a extra added benefit that can provide.
Yeah, and it's a really good summary of our relationship and really the type of relationship that TrueSpec offers its clients. Point to note for the T Green community, there will be nothing available of that October 2021 appointment. So some of you may be scratching your head, you may be curious, you may be laughing. That is between Dan and I. So just a playful moment there. You talked about the process once the golfer arrives and that early level of engagement. As I know, you often encourage your clients to get loose, hit some balls. There's a conversation that ensues as that process is going. You talked a little bit about that. Once we are full go, it is hitting balls and the monitors, whether it's TrackMan, I think you have a new one now, but then there's a ton of data. Can you really help the community understand the value of the tools that you use and then the data that comes out and how the data impacts the decisions that your clients and you make?
Sure, it's very much data driven, because if you're going to invest in some new golf equipment, it has to be better, and it has to be measurably better.
Yep.
There's certain ways in which a club might seem to be better in terms of its appearance, its sound, its feel. Those are all important aspects of it all, but those cannot be measured. So if you're looking to shoot better scores, we need to understand with how the current ball flight is treating you on the course, what ways can it be better, and then what ways can different choices with the equipment help with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of data that can be analyzed as we look at how the ball is flying and how the club is being delivered. So much so it can be overwhelming. So it's my job to filter through that as best as possible to, hopefully in a simple manner, explain to you what we're looking for, and what ways in which we're going to try different options to move the needle.
Yeah. And let's dial in on a few of the metrics that may lead to in-play, on-course curiosity for golfers. And so we know that golfers tend to, right or wrong or different, they'll compare themselves to part of their foursome, and that could be club for club. If I'm hitting a 7-iron 180 and this person's hitting a 7-iron 160 or 155, that golfer is trying to wonder at some point in time, appears to be the same body type, why am I not hitting the ball, my 7-iron, as far as that person is? And so just in that raw moment, talk about some of the metrics that could be available to help. And I know ball spin is one of them, but talk about that.
Sure. Well, so you'll often hear a club fitter talk about launch conditions.
Right.
How is that ball taking off in terms of its launch angle, its spin rate, its trajectory and descent angle? Those are all a function of the type of club that's being used, but the dynamics that the player then uses that club and delivers to the ball. And so if you're looking for a different type of ball flight, you've generally got a fairly repeatable type of club delivery and impact dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of your friends that you play golf with, whether they're a scratch golfer or a 25 handicap, you can watch them swing time and again, and things look pretty similar, don't they? There's not a whole lot of variance from swing to swing. The results are going to vary,
Mm-hmm.
but there's certain patterns that are pretty ingrained that with those types of patterns, there's bound to be different types of ball flight. It's always a challenge and a constant endeavor to improve those techniques, to work on our swing and to make sure that those are better. But it's with choosing the right clubs that we can maybe pick off some low-hanging fruit in terms of finding some improved performance, picking out